Welcome back, Jersey Nation. It's your boy, Jersey Boy. Glad to have you guys. If you found my channel, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Love to hear you guys' thoughts on the new Madden 21. Personally, I won't really be checking it out. I just don't want to get into it this season after they failed us once again. With that said, though, I am looking forward to some new content when it comes to Madden 20, as I'll be continuing here, both on this franchise as well as some interesting rebuilds I plan on putting together. But I do want to take a moment to go ahead and let you guys know I'm going to provide you a discount code in the description for Swift Lifestyles. They'll hook you guys up with everything that you need in order to stay focused on these games, get your franchises and your rebuilds together. So look forward to that below. But with that said, we're going to try to wrap up all of the preseason during this video, which I think will be slightly longer than what I'm accustomed to, so about the 40-minute mark. I actually ended up having to re-record this one. My mic had not worked through the whole first original recording, and I didn't realize till the last few minutes. But as we took a look, we're running through the roster again. So Sam Darnold still leading the way for us. We have Aaron Lyle as well as the backup. And the plan with him is we did plan on essentially stashing him. I wanted to see if we can have a backup coming in just in case Sam Darnold didn't really pan out for us. His stats are pretty low though. We did take a shot in the dark, so I'm not necessarily worried one way or the other if we need to actually cut Aaron Lyle here. Taking a look at the running stable, Leveon Bell still holding down the fort for us, so I'm expecting a much improved run game from him this season, and we'll see why. Elijah McGuire is going to end up being our receiving back, with Trenton Cannon offering another change of pace with speed for us. So hopefully we can take advantage of that as we take a look at improving with the scheme and the playbook that we roll with, or at least the playbook. Howard Dillon there is going to end up being the rookie that we look to stash and see if we can potentially get him some reps or do something with him. Spencer Miles at the fullback position for us. And then when we move over to wide receiver, Tyreek Hill's the prize possession for us, of course. We are going to hope that he can open up a lot of things for us and he builds a rapport and great chemistry with Sam Darnold right away. But I'm not expecting too much of a hassle here. Jamison Crowder is still going to hold things down for us at the slot position, and this will allow Quincy Enunwa to come in as our number 2. He was our number 1 last season, and while he wasn't the most effective, he quietly still almost put up 1,000 yards. So very pleased with him, and I think he will definitely transform within what we're looking to do this season. Eli Rogers had success as well, playing as our 4th and sometimes 5th receiver on the depth chart, and I believe he had as well about 500 or 600 yards. Keep in mind that we did not have the most exotic or successful passing offense. Josh Bellamy did some serviceable work for us the last 2 games, and then Sheffield is a returning player that maybe can show why we should keep him moving forward. David Saxton, a rookie, shot in the dark once again. The 3rd round was kind of rough. A lot of anybody that would have been capable had left. Tight end, very pleased. Jaden Rush was kind of the star addition here. I wasn't expecting him to be as rated as high as he was. But he's essentially going to play the role of our 2nd tight end and a pseudo 6th offensive lineman for us. He's coming in as a blocking tight end, so we'll see if we can't develop some of his receiving capabilities. Now, the offensive line, we put a lot of emphasis on. I wanted some impact players right away. So Gabe Roberson is hopefully our bookend of the future. He's more than capable, pretty good strength. He's going to be much more of a pass blocker than a run blocker right away. At least that is the hope. We don't have much depth behind him, which is a bit concerning, but I'm hoping we don't have any issues there. So get the peek around of his stats a little bit. I think he should develop very nicely for us. He did only happen to be a normal development for us. But you can't cry over spoiled milk. I think we came out of the draft accomplishing what we were looking to do. Cody Whitehair gets moved to guard. That way we can have a strong link. So from left tackle to center, we have a very, very strong, worst case scenario, average line. But Jack Barker was definitely the prize gem of the draft. So I'm hoping, will continue to be our center of the future, stepping into the role and feet of previous great centers we've had, like Kevin Mawai and Nick Mangold. So he shall hold down the fort, really transform what we're looking to do there as a team, which I think would directly have an impact on what Le'Veon Bell can do this season. So once we move on from Jack Barker, we don't have as much as we would like at the right guard position. Justin Jackson holding things down here. He is much more of a pass blocker than a run blocker. Where I do like my guards to be better at run blocking than pass blocking, but we'll see what we can, do and make with him. But I expect slow development, but we'll do what we can. And then Chume Idoga returning at the tackle position. So the hope here is maybe some people that will shake loose for us over the course of preseason cuts and things like that to hopefully make it easier. We know the strength of the Jets team has always been at the defensive positions for us. Now, with that said, the second line of defense has always been a bit of a struggle. Jordan Jenkins returns, though, and I'm hoping that he'll continue his trend of increasing his stats every season. And we are very solid at the starter positions on the inside. Hopefully, we can develop Blake Cashman potentially at the end. We did draft Jake Knorr there for the speed factor, if nothing else, to hopefully see what spice he can add to the defense. Jachai Polite holding down things on the right side, not much depth behind them. Jachai Polite is serviceable. He does have a 75 finesse move, but he's lacking in some other areas like tackling, things that are probably limiting what he can do within the scheme of our defense. Now, Brian Poole, he comes in as our top cornerback of the season. He is our top slot cornerback, though. So that leaves Mackenzie Alexander as our de facto number one, and he had a quietly pretty good first season with us after we picked him up in the preseason. Perry Nickerson was supposed to be developed behind Brian Poole, and then hopefully we can move him to the outside position. But I think I will keep him on the inside as the heir apparent to Brian Poole, and our gem in the secondary, Brian Hope, there has a bit of the speed. He has a bit of the size factor to where he can make an easier transition. So we'll be trying to play him quite a bit in between the outside and inside roles and just maximize what we can do with them. Marcus May still holding down the fort in the secondary as part of the tandem with Jamal Adams. So realistically, we're probably keeping Jamal Adams for all intents and purposes, but we'll see what we need to do with him. Now, free agency. Wanted to take a look and see if there was anything else we might be able to do. We did need a kicker. So for here, I'm looking for somebody with a leg that's relatively young, but I also want them to have at least somewhat decent level of accuracy. So as we kind of took a look at what was happening here, I decided that we'll run with Mr. Pinheiro here, only in his third year. We shouldn't have too much of a problem with him at all. And I'll be putting an emphasis next draft on definitely using some of those later round picks we have to just secure a kicker and a punter for us moving forward. Punter was essentially the same thing, although I care a lot less, to be honest. I'm just looking for somebody with a leg that can get it down the field when, we're stalling. So that's really kind of the only focus right away here for us. Again, we'll see if maybe somebody shakes loose potentially from preseason cuts, or just anybody that has a really interesting skill set at certain positions that we are going to be looking for. Now, we need to change our scheme and things, which I happen to forget about right away. But our focus is going to be on trying to develop some of the key players for us moving forward. With that said, I have my eyes on Jack Barker, of course, Gabe Roberson, and it would be great to go ahead and get Sam Darnold developed as well. But I want to kind of make sure we're tending to both sides. So I'm thinking realistically for us, what's going to happen is we'll keep Jack Barker there. We'll have Gabe Roberson, and then as you'll find out shortly, we did have a hidden development right outside linebacker that we had, so that might be interesting to take a look at, although he's rated pretty low. But I'm thinking that we'll probably end up going with Brian Hope here. Again, what I imagine is we can play him in quite a few different roles. If he gets hurt, if we lose somebody in the third line of defense, at those safety positions, we can have him go there with what he's currently doing as a rookie. And if not, then we can keep him just kind of being interchanged between the slot position and the outside roles for him. And we'll kind of see where it looks like he's fitting best as he progresses throughout the season. We don't really have too many people that have anything worth developing, and the ones that we do have, they'll probably be on their way out, to be honest. So it is what it is for the most part. I have no real concerns about anything that we might run into. But with that said, we'll go ahead and get this set up. I would have cut out quite a few pieces here, but to be honest, it was just a lot of additional work right now. With this just kind of being the preseason setup, I didn't mind having some of these additional pieces in. And then when it comes to, of course, the experience and stuff, I'm just simming straight through. I want it to be kind of synonymous with same thing that's going on with the computer sims. I'm sure they're not getting gold every time and things like that. So this will just kind of even out the playing field ever so slightly for them, although we still do have quite a lot of work ahead of us. But glad to see that hidden trait there. That should help Jack Barker immensely, excuse me, bit my lip, over the course of the season as we try to get him. So I'm hoping for anywhere between 5 and 7 skill points, hopefully, for him in his rookie season, which should put him in line to definitely be a top lineman, either by the end of his rookie season or moving into the sophomore year for him. So we do take an L in our first preseason and we get whacked. We get completely ran over by the Tennessee Titans. Now what I'm happy to see is that we did put up a good offensive showing. Before we get smacked, we'd have a poor, 180 something, yards gained, which is unacceptable. So Tracy McSorley, this is the backup quarterback, puts up 4 of the 4 end zone dances against us. Marcus Mariota gets in one as well. Sam Darnold struggles. For a moment there, I thought that we might have had an issue with him potentially getting injured, but it turned out he just didn't play a whole lot. Got in for a series or so probably. And then Aaron Lyle, who we're looking at as the depth at the quarterback chart for us, which would be our main person coming in if something were to happen to Sam Darnold. He does get the passing game going, but he struggles quite a bit. Not surprised, given how his stats played out, but we'll see. Le'Veon Bell, though, he has a great debut in his second year with us. 77 yards and a touchdown. We're able to hold the Titans in the running game quite a bit. Victor Johns only getting 42 yards. Elijah McGuire gets into the end zone as well, and then it looks like we're still basically getting a handful of reps for our second halfback, and then the running back, the quarterbacks are essentially doing the rest. Quincy Enunwa, great game starting from him. Jaden Rush does phenomenal in his debut game as potentially a essential piece moving forward for us, the tight end position. And leading us, as always, Mosley, we have Williams, and we have Brian Hope having a great game as well. Leonard Williams and Mosley there in the sack department. And then we weren't able to get any interceptions. We got no special defensive touchdown plays to be concerned with. I still need to consider what I want to do about the X Factor abilities and things, as Jamal Adams went ham last season and completely, wrecked things left and right. So we'll see what's going to happen there for us. I'll decide by the regular season. We'll just kind of knock out preseason, get what our final team looks like. I'll show the official depth chart and any final pieces that we do next game for sure. But it looks like we have no cut so far, so mostly everyone is going to probably wait until that third, fourth week of preseason. So I shouldn't really be too shocked, but I figured a lot of people, especially like 4 or 5 teams in particular, did load up in free agency. But yeah, we'll see. I don't have any concerns. Quarterback wise, though, I do want to make sure that we can have somebody that doesn't tank the season if we do get off to a really good start. So I want the skill sets to still match. We need, pretty good short accuracy, medium accuracy. I want somebody with a bit of throwing power to them. And since we are doing a version of like a sim series, that awareness is still going to be pretty important for us. So Brock Osweiler actually doesn't look too bad, just based on what I'm wanting from my quarterback. With that said, though, I'm pretty sure he'll probably play just like he did in real life. He did want quite a bit of money, though, and some of these other players are just old or their throw power is pretty weak, so they're not going to be able to compensate like somebody that has a much better arm. With that said, though, I did see Brett Hundley way up towards the top, and he had very similar traits. Actually, his accuracy was a bit better. Throw power took a hit, but I mean, for everything he's offering, the price was the same. I was tempted to go with Brock Osweiler, but if we're gonna basically pay 2.5 million to a quarterback, which I guess isn't a crazy ask from Osweiler, but if Hundley wants the same amount of money, then it's not even close. So we'll take Brett Hundley. We'll place him back there. We'll see if maybe Lau can contribute during the preseason a bit. If he can get some more snaps and, he shows that he is somebody worth keeping, we'll do so. If it ends up being the case where it's not worth it, I have no shame in, going ahead and cutting bait early. We'll try again next off season and put a bit more focus on what we want to do with that. So Brett Hundley will be coming along. We'll insert him. We'll see how he adjusts with us. And as I was mentioning before, I wanted to make sure that we had changed the scheme, or the playbook, excuse me, to make sure that we did not have the same kind of issues. We can probably get by with our current playbook, if only because we definitely increased the talent. Definitely at the key positions we would have needed to. But I was doing some research, and I seen a playbook that was really balanced, really offered a bit of everything I was looking for. So we're going to stay for one with the multiple zone run scheme itself. And we are actually going to take a look at how the Oakland playbook works for us. Of course, straight out simming it versus watching how it plays out in the games will probably give us some very different results. Sorry about that. Audio issues left and right, but they'll probably give us very different results. But all in all, I think this will improve everything we're looking to do for this season to set Sam Darnold up with not having nearly as many excuses as he would have had for last season. So if anything else, it's really just us, getting the rest of that line together. We've essentially got left tackle and center covered, even though we got Whitehair at guard. We need to see if we can actually get him to re-sign as we get a bit more development for Ja'Kai Polite here. He gets +2 finesse, and you can see a bit of what I was talking about when it comes to some of the traits that probably held him back from producing as well last season. But as I was mentioning, left guard, right tackle still essentially are going to need work. Um, we'll take a look at how this next preseason game goes. So we're against a very respectable team in the Packers. So I'm excited to see what we can do, especially after changing the playbook. And we get a W. We get a W and we do it tremendously. We put up what looks like 45 points, 49 points against the Packers. Now, they still put up quite a bit on us, but I am super happy. So Sam Darnold puts up two, only 123 yards, but Brett Hundley also had success as well, as we continue to see a trend with like the backup quarterbacks pretty much hanging points on us. So as much as we've done to improve things, we still have a long road ahead of us. A lot of depth that needs to be reworked, and we still need strong impact people. Le'Veon Bell, his best game probably of any that he's had for us preseason and regular. 138 yards too. Elijah McGuire still contributing. So yeah, common trend seems like we're just basically going to be sticking to our first two running backs in the stable. Throughout the season, they might get here or there. Quincy Enunwa continuing to have a very, very strong preseason. Something concerning is that I haven't really noticed Tyreek Hill popping up anywhere. So that's to be concerned. He does get in the end zone on the one catch that he did get. But that could be a problem that we'll definitely have to continue to monitor in the next two preseason games. We invested and took a huge risk in signing him during the offseason. It's kind of a splash move for us, so we couldn't really do much on the offensive line like we wanted to. And it looks like the secondary kind of roams back there in the tackle department. But we couldn't do as much as we wanted to. And it definitely showed. Again, the depth is severely lacking, but we expected to make up for it in the draft, which I have no problems with. But it looks like our defense is still doing what they do best. We're applying pressure as best as we can, but we're making the plays and executing how we need to. So taking a look, yeah, we still have no cuts. So next preseason game, we should definitely have the opportunity to kind of scour the league and see what it is that we could potentially get from some of these other teams. Um, I almost wish like I could have put the practice squad on, because I'm sure they're stashing quite a few great players that I would have loved to add on our side. We have cuts coming up. Let's go ahead and knock out this training real quick. Also should be some upgrades available, hopefully, in addition to what we're currently doing. But I definitely say the Jets are trending upwards. Based on what we've seen, we're putting, yards up. We're getting points when we need them, which is critical. So taking a look at our upgrades, CJ Mosley, of course. So we'll just pour this into getting them into a scheme fit. It never hurts to increase, coverage traits. So we end up getting some zone coverage, a bit of man. So overall, he's doing really good, and man coverage could be a bit better, but he's a stud. Jack Barker finally gets his first, and we are going to pour this straight into his agileness. I imagine after the last preseason game, probably the first game of the season, we'll end up getting like probably halfway through. He's shaping up to look pretty good for us though. So hopefully we have him as a scheme fit before the season is over. And yeah, I expect for him to continue the trend. I want him around for the next 10 years or so. And then we have some more depth pieces just looking to improve on what they can do. So Brandon Bryan should definitely be sticking around this season as well for us. And we have cuts going on. We have a few people we need to cut, although I do want to take a look at the game first, and then we can start taking a look at some of the stats. We'll see if there is Anybody that potentially stood out, even if it was for a game or just one big splash play, anything like that from those that were cutting. So we take another L to the Cowboys, but it was a close game, which bodes well for us. Brett Hundley gets a touchdown. Sam Darnold hooks two more. But the trend continues. Starting offenses haven't had as much success, but the backup quarterbacks have definitely still been putting in work. So they didn't go crazy in terms of yardage, but still, I want to keep them out of the end zone. So I hope that doesn't continue into the regular season. Elliott has one of the best running games against us so far, but it's nice to see that Bell is still contributing and having a positive effect on the offense. Should directly coordinate to how effective our passing game is, but you can see it's been a lot more balanced. Quincy Enunwa continuing a strong preseason. 2 touchdowns for him. He goes for almost 100 yards on 6 receptions. And let's kind of get the focus back on us real quick. Eli Rogers still doing his thing. Crowder there. Tyreek Hill gets a bit more involved this time around, which is nice to see, but he hasn't had nearly as many impact plays as possible. You could basically say none outside of that touchdown that he caught last week. Rushing game, as we've noted, we're not having much variation outside of the first 2 players. Udoga hooks 2 sacks there, and Mosley, Nickerson, and Alexander this time happen to lead the team in tackles for us. We do see us getting into the backfield quite a bit this game, so we have a nice showing from Shepard there. We get a sack from Quinnen Williams, and then a shared one between Basham and Williamson. And no other really notable plays outside of that. So we really need to start kind of taking a look at what it is that we're going to want to do in terms of any last minute additions we might be able to add to make this more effective. So we can start to see that we are getting some releases and things here. There might be some interesting players for us to pick up, but from what I'm seeing, most of these I've seen in free agency prior to the draft. And others are just at positions that we don't necessarily need to focus on right now. Joseph Jones might be interesting, but middle linebacker is pretty secure. So let's go ahead and take a look at free agency, take a look at the pool of players we might have. As I was thinking about it, we can always, just try to make sure the positions that are strong are as strong as possible. So I was taking a look at running back, and I think Giovanni Bernard here would be a strong move for us. So if something were to happen to Le'Veon Bell, he's basically him in a less talented version. Not by a whole lot. There was a time where he was definitely considered one of the top 5-10 running backs in the league. But he can excel potentially in the receiving game as well as the running game. So I kind of want to keep the ability to have people do both. So the more I thought about it, I did decide to seal the deal. We are going to pick him up. It's only $3 million for the season, which is relatively cheap considering Bell is hitting us for 14 and a half or so over the course of the next season or 2. So we'll add him in. That will take away from Elijah McGuire and them, but I mean, they were already kind of vets age-wise for us, so they weren't going to stick around in the extreme long term. I do want another receiver just to try to be as solid as possible. Deontay Burnett was a thought, but the more I considered it, while he did match up, we just never really gave him a whole lot of time to play. And like age-wise, it's probably not going to be worth really pouring into him. 22 isn't necessarily bad, all things considered, but I mean, for the amount of playing time and what we need to do to really try to get him to develop at all, it's not going to be a whole lot. I need somebody that can show a bit more. My next thought was take a look at speed, but we do have Tyreek Hill. So the next thought was going to be, well, who can be the most agile? Who can, shift and move some things, potentially as like a slot receiver or even on the outside. And there were some interesting players that showed up, although I either wanted a scheme fit or something more closely related. And then it hit me again. Our problem that we've seen pretty frequently last season, excuse me, Jesus, was that we couldn't get off the line. So I want somebody that can get off the line. They'll still match up with, having decent short route running, medium route running, and hopefully they have a bit of speed to them and can catch. And as we took a look, I was intrigued by Moncrief and Conley, but Carlos Henderson seemed like he might, as well as being a scheme fit, be perfectly suited for what we're looking for, as he would essentially come in as that third or fourth receiver, kind of bumping one or two other people down. And if injuries hit, I think we line up really well to kind of take advantage of at least how our roster is currently constructed. He also has okay size, 5'11", 191. So we pulled the plug on him, and we'll see how he does for us. Hopefully over the last preseason game, although I know stats tend to like disappear on you. If not, then we'll definitely look forward to what he can do in his debut game with us. Imagine he'll probably get about 20 snaps or less if he happens to be our fourth receiver or lower. All a numbers game. On the offensive line, I'm still looking for anybody that can try to mold. So when it comes to both Madden 20 and Madden 21, there's been I guess you can even call it like historical downfall of just terrible linemen. Even as you take a look at something like the draft classes, you might have one or two really good people, 4 or 5 members that like you can develop around one trait, like run blocking or something like that occasionally, but everything else is just really bad, and you just got to hope the team as a whole performs so that you get as many of those XP boosts as possible for them. And the stories and things like that play a huge role for them as well. So I really struggled to find anybody at the left tackle position. I wanted somebody that can pass block at least with something decent, so I'm looking at like the 75 range or up, although I'm willing to look lower if maybe we can hit on 2 or 3 traits that are close. At the guard positions, I'm looking for a run blocking ability. It's pretty much it. I can get by with decent pass blocking any day, but that run blocking is really important for me for when we're struggling, especially like early on in the games. We can try to take advantage of the clock. At the center position, I like someone that can lead block, and I like run blocking there. Impact blocking will of course always be important across the board for me, so I know that they're actually holding on when they're delivering those punches. And Mason Cole intrigued me as somebody that we could potentially come in and maybe we switch him to guard, although he'd be a bit light there, or we just stash him as someone that can spell Jack Barber at times that he needs it. He doesn't have the worst stats that I've ever seen, so we will go ahead and pull the plug on him as well, as he gives us the best option of being young, being able to develop a bit, and then potentially later on we can do something with him. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Don't imagine we'll have too much of an issue there. Right guard, essentially the same. The players that were worth getting, they were already stashed on a practice squad. So we don't really make any other additions. It just wasn't worth it to waste the resources when we can take a look at how next free agency pans out, as I wouldn't mind trying to take a look at investing again. And maybe we have some resources we can trade and develop unexpectedly, or outperform what I was expecting to do during the season, and we can offer that as trade bait and take a look at what the league has to offer for us. Right tackle is even worse. So actually, since like even Madden 19, Madden 19 wasn't too bad, but definitely this year, what I've seen from Madden 21, I haven't seen any good like right tackle draft classes. You've had to essentially take a guard, or you've had to take a left tackle and just switch them over based on what you were looking for. And of course, lead blocking and run blocking are going to be important on this side for me, although I like them to be a bit more well-rounded. Nothing really came to mind, so we'll probably have to stick it out with Edoga. I wasn't really too worried after thinking about it with any of the other positions. So getting into the cuts that we were going to make to lead us into the actual regular season. Aaron Lyle, Brett Hundley did serviceable. I have no doubts that he'll be able to come in and do what we need him to do. So as much as I wanted to really consider stashing him on the practice squad, we're going to essentially cut him. It's just not going to be worth the time and the effort to try to do what we need to do there. At the halfback position, which this can change as well because I got certain numbers already lined up for what I want. Um, our roster pretty much here already, you know, it's built itself. Howard Dillon, I do want to stash on the practice squad. I mean, we'll see what we can do. He doesn't have anything outstanding, but I mean, he's young enough, and if the season goes awry, I'll bring him in, kind of see how he performs. And you know, worst case scenario, or I guess best case scenario for him, he'll just be on a roster, period. But you know, he'll make it as a fourth string for us, something to that effect. We'll get rid of some of these older guys. I'll be taking a look as well still once the regular season officially comes around with what I will be doing. But these are some of the easier cuts on the team to definitely make. It's not like we have 1,000,001 studs at every position. Receiver ended up working itself out the same way. So just taking a look at Tyreek Hill and what he was able to do during the preseason, he did not stand out. So I'm really, really worried. I don't know if it was the scheme. Excuse me, I don't know why I keep getting scheme and playbook interchanged, but I don't know if this is the playbook we have so far. If he just wasn't able to do enough, maybe we don't have the right quarterback for him. You know, he is a deep threat. Maybe we just aren't taking the shots, or maybe we are and we aren't connecting. But we have a pretty solid lineup. We're not as young as I'd like. We don't have anybody that's overly exciting, just based on what we've seen. Quincy Enunwa would have to be, you know, the leader of this position so far, from how I'd say things have paid out for us. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. So I'm expecting him to definitely go over 1,000 yards for this season for sure. Jamison Crowder, I'm hoping to be able to take advantage of what Tyreek Hill opens up, as well as what Quincy Enunwa was doing to draw attention. David Saxton, again, want to keep around, but he's already 24. There's nothing here that's going to be extremely useful for us, especially with what's lining up with, you know, Darnold's skill set at the moment. So I have no love lost here. Hopefully he can, you know, get picked up by another team. Trent Sherfield, though, I think did give us something to work with, as, you know, somebody that can stick around. Maybe he can come in depending on how things play out, and that'll be that. So we'll end up cutting some players here to make room. Javon Wims will have to go. Again, David Saxton really took me a minute to kind of make up my mind on that, but we did have a lot of shots in the dark. And then on the defensive side, just to balance some things out, we'll come to tight end real quick. Cut Michael Roberts. He didn't really come in and show anything. I don't even believe he really got any snaps, which, yeah, didn't really get a chance to show anything. But I mean, Trevon Wesco's younger. They're about the same skill-wise. They're going to essentially have played the same role, so we'll give it to Wesco. And hopefully he doesn't see the field, really. But if he does, I'm not concerned too much. We got a good, you know, push there with Jaden Rush and Chris Herndon. And then when we come to the defensive side, I don't necessarily want to mess with the safety position at all. I like 5 players there. I think that's a good number. Cornerback, we're pretty much set right. We could get rid of a player here, but I think just from a speed element, I want to go ahead and put Jake Noor on the practice squad as well. And, you know, again, if we have a really good season, we make playoffs, we'll have them come in and kind of see what the younger players can do. If not, then it is what it is. We'll see how next preseason goes. I'll put an emphasis on the younger talent for sure, and we'll just call it what it is. So I think that's kind of what I want to do as well moving forward. Use the preseason to really focus on the younger players because we essentially know what we're getting with our higher rated talents and the players we bring in and things like that. So preseason will be for free agency and the young. With that said, though, again, guys, greatly appreciate you guys coming through for the regular season. I'll show you guys our official depth chart again. Any changes that we decide to make whatsoever. It also most likely is going to be some storylines that we have there as well, which does ring true. But with that said, once again, please like, comment, and subscribe. Any thoughts, any feedback you guys would be greatly appreciated. Looking forward to this new season. And with that said, it's your boy, Jersey Boy, and I'm out. Peace.